hello folks, we have started. Yes, it is a rattling and a rolling. It is the second episode of the Blizzard Forecast. Thank you for being here. And of course, it's the line you've heard before. It's not just me, there's some other people here that you might find slightly more interesting. Hello folks, how are we doing? We have the familiar trio. Blank, say hello.
Hey folks, how you doing? Hope you're having a wonderful day.
Hello everyone.
And indeed, it is the Pav. Is that a Pav or the Pav? We did establish you were a noun last week.
I don't know, I rarely refer to myself in this kind of objectified, third person, but I don't know, you seem to be purporting it, so I'm not too bothered about it. Although, apparently, Blank is taking my space currently on the
I am
stream.
the Pav today.
Oh, have we done? Oh, well. Wasn't that the right way round earlier? Did we have another camera turn off and on? We must have done in the
nope.
in the pre-testing.
Nope.
No,
I say no. This is the order. You, me, him.
Yep, fair enough. I'm good.
We shall fix that later.
I can misbehave with impunity now. That's the great thing.
Well, please.
Well, there we go.
Well, we'll do some of that a little later on. But there's quite a lot to get through. We, of course, we've got no SC2 and no Diablo content this week, just so you guys know. We will be having some of this stuff coming on board, but we're going to get it absolutely right before we do so. And we've got some faces and names you want to associate with it, and you'll be hearing from them soon, trademark. But we have a few things to run through. We have some hero stuff. We're digging into Sergeant Hammer, and Parv is going to attempt to go through what I need to do to be able to actually learn to play this MOBA. Then, of course, we have an extended version of the top drawer segment. We're going to be digging into Hearthstone, Marsh and Pseudo, and they're going to be looking at Death Rattle and all the new stuff that was talked about with the new cards that have now been revealed. So that one's going to run a little longer than normal to let us really get into it. Then, of course, when we come back, Blank, we're going to be digging into some fun stuff in Draenor, including a wonderful retrospective that's been put out there in the community that covers a myriad of things to do with raiding. But there's going to be a touch of PvP, I hear, as well.
Absolutely. We'll get into a little bit of history and a little bit of the future.
Excellent. And beyond that, we're going to be talking to you guys, finding out what you guys want to know, what you guys want to see, and we'll take it from there. But without further ado, let's keep things a rattling and a rolling on, as our title says. Pav, let me hit some magic buttons. And let's talk a little bit about heroes.
Magic. Okay, heroes.
Oh, you were about that instead.
Heroes.
I can talk magic.
Magic. Yeah, magic would be great.
we can do magic in the post-show. Let me go get my blue deck. But moving on. It's heroes.
I need that file, by the way.
I have to send you a file. We'll just have to wing it. We're live. And we are indeed on a two-way split. Pav, it's just you and me.
Oh no. Where did Blank go?
Where did Blank go? I think he's gone in the fridge. It's either the fridge or the windy house he has behind him. The Princess Tower.
I'm in the Pink Castle. I'm in the Pink Castle right now. I'm reporting live from the Pink Castle. You just can't see me.
Blank space reporting live from the Pink Castle. If only you could see what we could see right now. You would be most amused. It's just got his head sticking out, and the whole thing's kind of swaying side to side. It's really. We'll have to take a photo of this to show you later.
I'm surprised he fits in that thing. But yeah, he's a big muscular guy in this tiny. It's like a shirt.
Pink Castle shirt. You heard it here first. We'll get back to that one. But we're going to look at two things on the Heroes bandwagon today.
Yes, we're going to look at.
The game is still in tech alpha, and that doesn't mean there's lots of exploring to do. So, where do you want to start, Pav? Do you want to start with talking about Sergeant Hammer, the class we're going to dig into and look at, or do you want to start with how do you learn to play a MOBA? And I guess this might be where I get my homework.
I don't know. I think we can talk about Sergeant Hammer first. I think I'd like to talk about him.
Okay, so I'm going to actually make us disappear, and I'm going to replace us with some screenshots. Now, we've got a little bit more audio. of a delay to deal with here. So here come the heroes' screens. We're on to the first one. And yes, the first one, this is actually proof that it's actually me sitting here attempting to play some of this, doing so on my own /Misper, but we may have some live games on here soon as well. And I'm just actually going to filibuster for a second, just let this catch up, because it's quite a fascinating experience streaming. Now, you've got a lot of experience with this one. Does it change your mindset if you're playing a game and you're streaming, or do you manage to play it exactly the same way? Do things cross your mind like, if I try this and I die, I'm going to look silly? Or do you just totally forget that you've got people watching?
I think I'm guilty of forgetting that people are watching, but I don't think that's a good thing to do when you're streaming. I think if you're doing any kind of Let's Play or anything like that, you're doing it primarily to be entertaining, and having fun is part of being entertaining. But there's a very different aspect when you're just trying to win. It's interesting. If you ask someone to do some simple maths, they can do it.
Yeah.
But if you ask them to do it while they're walking, it suddenly becomes the delay time for doing it is actually a lot longer. When doing a manual thing, it becomes a lot harder to actually talk about things and think of things on the fly at the same time. So I think it depends on your aim. If your aim is to be entertaining and you want to be an entertaining streamer, I think you need to forgo some of your plays. Well, you're going to, because you're going to be sacrificing it. The really, really good players, when you look at the top LoL players and Dota players and StarCraft players and those players that are streaming, they won't talk very much, and that's because they're concentrating. So for me, I'm not a pro, so I'm going to play it differently. I'm going to try and be entertaining where I can, and I feel a bit bad if I'm not. I try to remove that.
So the screenshots are here in a bit of a random order at the moment, but as you can see, that's the best result. In fact, no, that's a different screenshot. Aha. That's a Stitches game. We don't want the Stitches game. We're going to dig into... That was one of my better ones, it must be said.
Oh, that just I don't know how that got in there. Oh, one of those games I won. Whoopsie.
No, we've just dragged the whole folder of screenshots. We may have an extraneous one. This is the guy we're playing. It is the Hammer. And, of course, what people are very familiar with at the moment is this searching versus screen. This is one difficulty when playing streaming, talking, in that we've got this very long queue of a random nature. And queue times currently are anything from 30 seconds to about 10 to 12 minutes, I'm finding.
Well, I think that's due to the size of the pre-alpha at the moment. You're not, you need to have people that are similar level to you, that don't have the same hero as you. I'm sure the matchmaking system, I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure it tries to balance hero composition in a way as well.
Okay.
Which is one of the advantages. That's my conjecture, but I do think it's probably a thing. I've not seen a game where I've got all supports.
Okay, good to know.
And no auto attackers, or no one big sort of tanky guy. So I think it tries to get a variation of hero roles across the team. So Sergeant Hammer, I think I want to explain a bit about him. If I can.
Okay. I will leave this screen here so we can talk about the basics of what the Hammer is, and we have the talent tree to look at as well.
Okay, so Sergeant Hammer. Now, I only heard that we were going over this guy about 5 minutes ago. Oh, no,
Absolutely.
A couple of hours ago. This is a hero I've not played very much of, but I've seen a lot in games. So, what does he do? Basically, he's generally quite a slow hero, and he's what I would call a counter-pushing hero. He's not a good pusher. What he's very good at is stopping enemies advancing. And usually heroes like that are not very mobile, but they're good at killing creeps. Mm-hmm. But they have to stay in fixed positions to do it. And obviously, he's a Terran. He's from StarCraft. Anyone who's played StarCraft has played Terran, because Wings of Liberty is all about Terran anyway. And one of the main things that tanks do when you upgrade them is that they siege up. So siege mode is his Q spell. It's one of his major spells. It plants him in the ground. He can't move, but his range is increased, his damage is increased in doing so. So you want to put him down and have him in a strategic position that's just going to stop enemies from pushing. That's what you really want to do. That's one of the most obvious applications of Hammer, I think, is to do that.
The flip side, of course, is when you are planted, you've got to unplant to get away. The mount mechanic is a little different. Maybe we can look at that. And if you get a barbarian in your face activating its spinny thing, you're going to die. There really isn't much more than that, I find.
So he does reduced damage when players get close. So an obvious counter to him is gap closing heroes. Heroes that are good at diving and doing burst damage. Yeah? Because if you can get one player in and close the gap, everyone else can advance with a lot more impunity because suddenly his damage has gone down a lot. He's probably going to be focusing on the individual that's near to him, because if he doesn't, he's going to die. Yeah. Either that or he's reacting and retreating. Either way, he's not going to be firing at you from a seated position. So yeah, Barbarian is a great example of a hero with a gap close that can come in and do a lot of damage, and that's exactly what you probably want against it. His mount mechanic is different. He doesn't actually mount. He has a sprint ability essentially. He gets a short run speed, which you won't be able to do when planted, which is, I think, synergistic because that's what he needs. He's going to need a burst of speed to get away when the push comes and he can't defend it.
There's a dilemma I've run into a few times. So the Z key is normally on mount, but in this instance it is the activate the speed boost. Now I believe it's on a 25-second cooldown, top of my head, and it lasts for about 5 seconds. It's generally enough to get away, but I'm often torn between, let's say the Raven map, you're trying to collect tribute. Do I use it to get there? But then if I get there and it's all enemies, I've got no way of getting away again and you've got a dead tank? Or do I save it just to escape?
Personally, I don't think he's the kind of the hero that should ever be leading the charge, just because he's so weak if he's caught out. Positioning is everything. Just like a Terran player would play the army in StarCraft, it's not about reacting, it's about being aware prior to things and having things positioned. He's a very deliberate and sort of methodical hero. You need to. But
consider you're crossing the map to get to a tribute spawn point. It's just been announced, so everyone around you is going to mount up. And now, if they all mount up and charge, you are going to be trundling across the map by yourself, unless you use your Z key.
Well, if you have players that can back you up that are mounted, that are going ahead to take the charge, and then it's fine. But then he's not taking the charge. He's essentially a support that when he arrives, he then seizes the area. So he would be most suited to say the tribute spawns on the Raven's Curse map. You'd want him to be in the brush. You want him to be nearby, but also kind of on the outskirts of it, so that he can deal the maximal damage. And I haven't mentioned, but his passive as well, as it allows him to have AoE damage as well. Is that correct?
It's twofold, I believe. Depends how you pick the trait. The basic trait does more damage to enemies that are further away. I believe. And then you can upgrade it. And the path I always take, indeed, as you can see from what I've selected on this screen, is the add to range, the add to range, and the add to range. I think one of them is called Maelstrom, which then is splash damage. I think that's the 3rd tier at level 7.
Yes.
And that's 25%
I do very much agree
splash
with that
damage.
I have to know that, but the one thing that I thought was interesting with him actually is that he kills a lot of creeps. So bribe is actually quite a appealing one for him to take, and I'll tell you why as well. Because if you're able to stop pushes in one lane, you can also bolster pushes in another lane at the same time.
Okay. So can you just run that concept by me again?
So let's say the enemy team is pushing. Let's say you're on a 2-lane map, and the top lane, you're going to defend it, and it maybe take you and one other player to defend that, So you've got 3 other players pushing the other lane. If you're going to have some sort of trade scenario go on, you can quickly use your sprint, buy some mercenaries, and then siege up again. And what you've done is you're just buying time. That's all you're trying to do, is make it so they have to invest even more to get through the push. So your counter push is as efficient as possible, so your other 3 players can take, and essentially it's a trade. It's like trading a pawn for a pawn in chess when you're already a piece up. Okay. The trade means more to you than them, because he doesn't take much to kill creeps. He sits in a position and he pushes a lane back, so he takes a lot of creep kills.
So one thing I'm finding with this chap, and at the moment I'm just diving into queues solo. And indeed, it's early days in the tech alpha. There's not many pre-mates out there. We did run into one, and it was, yes.
A bit of a massacre.
A bit would be putting it kindly. It was a huge massacre. It was fun to see how it could be executed, actually. I'll get to that. That was on the Dragon map. But I tend to find games with him either go really, really well because you've got a bit of an advantage and he's able to turn it into a big advantage, or really, really badly because you're just dead because everyone's running around the map like a headless chicken. And there's no real middle ground.
I think you see this with a lot of kind of he's almost a glass cannon because he's not very tanky at all, but he can deal a lot of damage if he's left alone. And you see that with heroes like Sniper and Dota 2, for instance. So if players work out, if I just like get a gap closer and pound this guy, he doesn't take a lot of damage to get rid of, but it removes a lot of damage from a team fight. So he's a very good trade to get on top of. So yes, if he survives the first few team fights and deals a lot of damage, he'll suddenly be able to deal with his issues. So he'll be higher level. You can get some extra traits that maybe give you a bit more survivability or health, or even just extra damage so they can't really push you. And that'll be the case.
I invariably go for range quickly, and if I can get my level 7 Maelstrom Splash and my level 5/4 extra range earlier than the other people, it's really noticeable.
Definitely, I think that's definitely a thing, because if you can sit at the back and you can really, even just a couple of shells that do a lot of area damage and stuff like that, suddenly they're on half health and they're trying to deal with the rest of your team before they can even get to you. Whereas if you're behind, say, a level or two, you don't get that splash damage out, they kill a couple of players and then they just go for you straight away.
Yeah.
So it really, he's a very, he is a very snowbally kind of hero in that regard. I have a point now. No, I've forgotten it. Oh, that was it. The other point I'd like to make about him is that because he's such a deliberate hero, he lends himself to certain maps a lot better than other maps, and I think that's also an aspect that you might find that he just sort of dies a lot on certain maps, and other maps he's got a lot more things to sort of exploit.
So where would you expect to see him do well? Where would you expect to see him suffer? And I'm going to go back into the screenshots now. It's going to reset them, so I'm going to have to cycle through quickly while we're talking. And while you're talking about that, I'm going to start moving towards his individual abilities.
Okay, I think the map that he's strongest on is actually the Pirate Doubloon map. And the reason for that is that you have two lanes that are squashed together. So he can essentially counter-push two lanes at once. So that's a highly efficient way for him to be put in. I don't know if you have a screenshot of that map.
I don't of that map. And in fact, I'm actually yet to try that tactic on that map. What I've been doing on that map is really working to guard and protect the hand-in point.
And well, that's the other thing as well, is that you have essentially a really, really central choke point to the map. I actually think, in contrast, the Raven's Curse map is actually the worst map for him. And the reason is because there's constantly moving objectives, and there's 3 separated lanes. Yes. So it's very difficult for him to be everywhere, because he's got relatively low movement speed, and you sacrifice your escape if you're being aggressive, like we discussed earlier, so you don't want to be too aggressive with him.
One tactic I found on the Raven map, and I'm sure better teams wouldn't allow this to happen, tribute spawns. People run off towards it, and I go, okay, invariably there aren't all 5 players there, because someone stays and does their own thing at the moment in the way the teams are going. So if 4 people go off to the tribute point, we're generally still okay. You're generally still going to take that tribute. If I've got extended range, I can then trundle up my lane, I can park myself so I can still hit the siege towers, but not be hit myself, and whilst people are fighting over the tribute, I can take out a pair of cannons and a gate. And I've done that 2 or 3 times successfully and cleared effectively a whole lane while that's been going on.
And I think that is a good trade, and it's a very situational trade, though. What you look for in a team is a group of 4 heroes that are well suited to dealing with 5 players, really. Yeah. You want players with large AoE abilities. Essentially, you want big teamfight heroes on your team to do that. If you've got lots of, say, I don't know, late game sort of carry style heroes, stuff like that, they're going to get squashed, and you're not going to be there to back them up. And it's very hard as that hero to actually be there, because you can't mount up. Yeah. And like I said before, if you can't mount up and you do use your sprint to get there, you've got nothing if they intercept you. You're a dead man, really, if they catch you when you're not sieged. Well, good players should be dashed down fast anyway, if that's the case. Okay, let's really quickly then just walk through the abilities he's actually got. Siege mode we've talked about, that's the mainstay of what he actually does. Concussive Blast is it's almost his button. Yeah, so this is like if you've played, I'm sure lots of people have played League of Legends, if you've played someone like Caitlyn. Caitlyn's quite a similar hero in some regards, is that she relies on range. She has a net ability that forces her back and slows enemies. This is essentially what you're looking at here. It's to try and deal with the gap closers, really. Okay. Which again is useful. You can also maneuver players into melee heroes like Stitches and stuff like that as well with it. So you can get quite creative with it. Spider Mines. Oh, sorry. One thing I just note on this, it's
Still not going to help you much if you haven't got support. It knocks someone back. It buys you maybe, 2 seconds?
It's not.
Doesn't feel like very long. I mean, I have managed once or twice to knock someone back, to be able to go Q, unsiege, Z, run away, and a couple of times I've sat there chortling as I've run away with like 0.1% health and somehow survived.
Yeah, of course, and it would be. I think it would be a bit overpowered if it was more effective, to be honest, because his biggest weakness is gap closers, and to give him like a direct, foolproof answer to gap closers would be too powerful, I think. And I think that is a good balancing decision they made with him. However, they have given you spider mines as well, so you can actually bait this.
I'm guilty of not using these very much, so talk to me about spider mines.
Well, like I said, I've only played this here a couple of times myself. I've seen him a lot. I've not seen many people use spider mines very effectively, in my opinion. I think I'd have to play this a bit more and see if I'm sure because there's a lot of upgrades you can get for spider mines, but I think it's a very specific thing to level for. I think it might be better for something like the pirate ship map, for instance, because you can put all these mines around that and then still go and defend a lane.
Okay.
You know?
Yep, that makes sense.
Heroes with mines in other games are usually used to defend. Defend
mines, I believe, have a 14-second timer. Is that right?
I don't actually know.
Well, let's move on to that because I've got some screenshots here that will give us the rest of the information. So let's fuck away through it. Look, proof. I do actually win games sometimes.
You do, yeah.
And that was the screenshot I tried to put up earlier. That's the best result I've yet managed with this guy. It was a 13-3.
13-3. I mean, that's a great score. You know, like you're obviously doing your job for your team if you're getting 13-3. You know, you're involved in more kills than you are, deaths, and we're always looking for that. I think if I was to get into a game with Sergeant Hammer now. If I was playing him, the way I'd level him is how you leveled him in that previous shot.
Okay, good to know.
I don't think it's necessarily the best way if you've got teammates to rely on that you can communicate with, because if you have big sort of tanky absorbent heroes that can defend him, you can have a really, really scary push with that guy, but he needs to be defended. He pays back in dividends once you do that, but if you can't rely on players, like if you've got stitches on your team that can like hook a player if they get in too close, or and like be in the front and soak up all the damage and everything, and like does his fart gas everywhere, whatever he does, that's great, but he's a difficult hero to play in solo pubs.
I'm finding if we get into later game, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger. I'm really struggling not to take increased range as every single option, because it just feels so much safer.
Again, it is safer, and as well, players generally find it hard to deal with, especially when they're learning a game.
Yeah.
I think what we'll see in Alpha is that things like extended range and stuff like that are great, but once players understand, that's Sergeant Hammer, so I'm going to change my build so I can get a better gap closer, they're going to start doing it. Whereas they may not be thinking that right now. I'm thinking, more damage, But obviously, if they've got more damage, but you can hit them and they can't hit you, that serves them nothing. That's a waste. So it is about an evolving meta as well with these heroes. They do rely.
Okay. Well, let's make sure we've filled in the gaps of people that don't have access at the moment, because I'm not seeing all the stats of these characters floating around the place. So we're going to look at these briefly. I'm going to change my viewport so I can read this stuff that's very small on my screen. There we go. I can now read it. So Siege Mode, 5-second cooldown, increases attack range by 4 and attack damage to minions or structures by 30%. It's a pretty big delta. And when you're sieged, attacks deal 25% more damage, and of course you can't move. So that's what that one's all about. But as you trade, as you go through your build, it changes. You get to do more things with it. But let's look at the others quickly, and we'll come back. Concussive Blast. You're waiting for 12 seconds on that W key. It feels like about 212 seconds while you're watching that counter count down. But it's 300 damage, or 297 with a knockback. Spider Mines, the one you just mentioned. It's an AoE, 14-second cooldown. 14-second cooldown, I was wrong, at a 35-second duration. That's an awful lot longer. 3 mines, 202 damage each, and a slow for 25% for 1.5 seconds again, not a lot of slow. Is 1.5 seconds slow going to help?
Well, yeah, it can do. I mean, even a mini stun can save your life in a game. A split second can. But I think what's important to note is that most 1v1 sort of skirmishes will no longer than about 20 seconds normally in the game. So, for instance, the knockback is a 12-second cooldown. You're barely going to get a chance to get 2 off in a fight. So, really, you can't rely on this stuff too much. I think with looking at his cooldowns, really, they're very much one use. You either stay and that's it, or you go at the beginning with him. You don't stick around and 1v1 a hero with him. It just doesn't make any sense. The only time I think maybe
it doesn't work. I've tried it.
Yeah, the only time I think you might do is if they're melee and you're very near a tower and they want to YOLO suicide into you. But I think that's just bad play on their side. Really, unless you're very well defended, there's not much point. You can do much more, because even if a player is coming to take your towers and all that, or you get back behind your tower, you can still fight quite a far way over your gate and stuff. You're going to really make them have to invest a lot. A lot of what makes this hero good is that he can stand and fight where other players can't because of his range.
Yeah.
If the enemy team is pushing 4 players versus 4, in another lane, and they've committed, say, one of their carries or someone scary to come and kill you and sneak a tower or 2, yeah, you can't retreat. You have to be like, no, I'm fighting this. I'm stopping you from winning, trading one for one in the 4-man team fight, and then getting an extra tower and getting a good trade out of this. Yeah. That's what he's good at. If he's not in the team fight, he has to defend the lane. And that's what those abilities are about.
Okay.
Really.
And the final one we've got up is, of course, the BFG. Not to be confused with the BFG 9000 from Quake. This is the blunt force gun.
Yeah, can I get the tooltip on this? I don't want to get it wrong.
700. I have it up already.
Yeah.
It is 771 or 91 damage. I've got it miniaturized again on my screen, but it's a chunk of damage on a long cooldown. There's a bit of a delay while you set up to fire it, but it's a reasonably wide arc.
So what we're talking about here is, it's very similar to, say, Raynor's, his carrier, not carrier,
battle cruiser.
Battle cruiser, sorry, yes. It's a big teamfight AoE, really. I mean, this is probably the most standard thing he has, really, is you see a team fight, you put this down, it's going to do a lot of damage. And
of course, one interesting about this, it has infinite range. So you can fire it from anywhere on the map to anywhere on the map if you're accurate enough.
Exactly, and this is exactly why he's great at stopping split pushes and counter pushing those things, because he can be there defending against one other player that's pushing the top lane while your 4 players are fighting the other. He can still contribute to that team fight, he can still tip the balance. If he's in the correct position, he can stop that push and he can get his ultimate down, and that's what he's really about, I think. He's not about 1v1 toe-to-toeing, he's about playing the entire map. It's about stopping one thing and augmenting another thing somewhere else.
You see, that's only happened to me the once. I was in another lane, playing, I think, Draenor, and I'm in a fight, and I'm about to win the fight, and then this huge rocket enters from left field that I totally wasn't expecting, and I was very dead.
This is why I think he's very, very dependent on meta, people understanding the game, because things like watching the entire map are things that beginner players don't normally do, and people that are learning the game, because they're very preoccupied in learning lots of things that currently aren't second nature, which will become second nature. So, again, just like heroes understanding that you need to be defended, but then, of course, they're not going to die if they defend you, because you're going to do a shit ton of damage. At the same time, people are going to go, oh, there's 5 of them and 4 of us, so we shouldn't go in, even though they know that, one ultimate here, they're profiting XP, and this ultimate's going to win in the team fight. Once people start to learn that, I think he's going to become a much more popular pick, and I think he's going to be much better appreciated.
I don't see him very often, it must be said at the moment, but he's rapidly becoming, him and Draenor are becoming my 2 favourite to play.
Everybody likes Draenor. Everybody likes Draenor. I mean, he's an intuitive hero. He's part of the tutorial, and as well, he's fun to play.
He's fun to play, and he's easy to get to grips with. I feel I can get good success with him quite quickly.
Yeah, his skill shot is. I think if Nova had his skill shot, she'd be the most horrendously overpowered hero in the game. Just because one thing about his, for those of you who haven't played the game, Nova and him both have a very similar skill shot, but hers will be blocked by the first creep. or first thing that gets hit, including buildings as well. Whereas Draenor the damage is dispersed through the entire line of fire.
But then Nova has triple tap, so hey.
She does. Oh, of course, yeah. Again, which is blocked by buildings, and that has screwed me over a few times now.
I didn't realise that. I'm yet to play it.
So I was I ulted this guy, and like triple tap is essentially like your assassinate ability on Caitlyn, or forget the name of those two. But yeah, so it's just 3 high burst rounds that do a lot of damage to individual target, and it has a very long range, and players can't really do much about it. But this guy runs behind one of the regen wells, and the regen well tanks 2 of the shots for me, and I don't get my kill. I'm like, oh. Especially when her ultimate is, you can take a trait which allows her to get instant cooldown reduction on her ultimate if it ends up the kill. So you stop that kill suddenly, you've removed a huge chunk of damage. It's a really cool mechanic, actually.
So let's sum up, because we said we're going to dig into Hammer today. We've done that. We've given a bit of detail, a bit of how it can be played. Sum up the Hammer for us, please, in a paragraph.
A paragraph. He's a versatile counter-pushing hero with a global impact on teamfights. That's how I describe him. He's high range. He's a glass cannon. He's all about positioning and forethought. That's what he's about.
Okay. So 2 more things for your path. First of all, you get now to pick the hero that I need to learn to play for next week. So pick me a something, and I shall have to go and do things with it on the daily stream and learn how to play it.
Well, you've not played Nova, but that'd be a bit obvious now to pick. Have you played many assassinating heroes at all? Like cloak heroes that...
No, I'm generally struggling with melee heroes and staying away from them, so you're now certainly going to pick a melee hero for me.
Okay, alright, well then, yeah, the things we don't like in these games are usually the things that we're bad at, and that's where, we learn the most.
Yep.
So if that is the case, I'm going to recommend you play Zeratul, actually.
Zeratul? I'm yet to play Zeratul. Okay.
Okay, so Zeratul is a permanent invisibility hero who he has a AoE cleave that goes all the way around him. That's his Q. He has a blink, and I forget, but his ultimate, there's a really cool ultimate that I think you should stick with and try and build into, and that's the one which basically when he attacks someone, it just keeps blinking him to them. And it's just like he has an AoE one and he has a single damage one, but the role you want to try and play with him for your homework is to be basically looking for individuals, squishy individuals, and just hunting them constantly, and going for very, very high damage glass cannon sort of thing, staying invisible, staying in brush, and just jumping out. And what that will do is not only will it teach you to survive as a melee hero and teach you about, because you're going to die a lot doing this. You're going to die a lot. But the great thing about dying in these games is that if you're dying, at least you're learning to a degree, as long as you're sensible. If you're running a thousand dying, you don't want to know. You're learning how aggressive you can be with each hero. Every hero has a very unique sort of interaction with every other hero as to how they scale with levels and what the survivability is. And once you know how to play at the limit of that hero, you can really start to take liberties against the other players and punish them where it's that judgment you need to develop. Not speaking from professionals, like I'm always learning, and I would say I'm great in many MOBAs at this stuff, but I understand that is how people get very good. You see people getting ganked mid with 3 players, and they run around the tower and kill them all. That's how they've learned how to do it. It's that judgment. It's knowing how to dive and come away with 1 health and kill both players. That's using the hero. So if you play Zeratul,
don't expect that to be happening to me anytime soon. Let's just say that now.
When you start killing people, and they're like, oh god, there's this guy, he's running around and he's killing us all, like, you're going to be like, oh man, like, this is so fun, I'm like a superhero. That's part of the joy of a MOBA, isn't it? Really?
Okay. I must admit, I didn't expect to enjoy this game as much as I have, because I haven't got to grips with any other MOBA, but hey, we're loving what Blizz are doing here with this particular game. But on that note, we have a little bit of homework, is to learn to play a melee. We're going to dig more, I think, next week, part into the basic principles of learning and how you learn to play a MOBA, because I think we need to make a bit of a series out of this. But of course, people can find me dying on Zeratul now for the next week at 4:30 BST every day on /Mispa on Twitch.
We'll do a little breakdown of him, I think.
Please, yeah.
We'll go over him, and if you've got any good plays as well, we can review them as well.
And we'll record some games, and you can look. I'll try and find the best and the worst of the week for you to laugh at, including the one where I YOLO suicide into a tower whilst trying to type to somebody or something like that.
Oh gosh, that's the worst when you hit your type key and then you're trying to use your abilities and you're just typing Q, E, E, R, W, X, whatever.
I've done that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So there we go. Any final thoughts, Parv, before this wraps up our Heroes segment for the week?
I don't know, anyone who's on the alpha at the moment who wants to try out Sergeant Hammer, I'd say like go for the really glass cannon build and try and make him work. Once you can learn to survive like that, you can really have a massive impact. See if you like the hero. It's not for everyone. Learn your playstyle.
Fair enough. And if anyone cares to do a game or two in the week, you can find me, you can message me, you can get hold of me on Mizpah #2828. Quite happy for people to throw me invites. And you can watch me die in your group. But, moving on, I'm going to push this button. And I'm going to move us back to a trio because... Blank's just come out the castle. What did he say? Just while I'm trying to catch a picture of him in it, he's back. He looks as if he never moved.
It's magic. It's what a Viking King does, I'm just going to say. And you were nice. You should have given him Illidan. I played Illidan, and my life was terrible for so long.
Well, I tell you what, Illidan has received quite a lot of criticism in that people think he's too weak early.
He is listed as very hard. Let's remember this for this character.
I'm just saying.
He is. He's like... Yeah, he's probably the biggest last cannon in the game at the moment. He can do a lot of damage, but you got to. But that's exactly the judgment I'm talking about. Once you have that judgment, you can start to move to heroes like that, and that will become more natural.
I have seen some good Illidan players just do silly things. I don't quite know how.
In fact, I might actually delve into Illidan for a bit. I've not explored him very much. I need to. I think.
Combos like crazy, and building him is... Because I was like, at first, I was like, oh, this is terrible. And then I was like, oh, wait, it works like this. And it works. Oh! And the two... Like, with his ultimate, you either play two ways. There's only two. You either play jump in the middle of the team fight and just go ham, or you hide back and you wait for people to go for an objective and you smack them and you run. Like, that's... Those are the two ways you play Illidan. There's no other way.
He's an assassin without the invis. It's so scary to play him.
Now, brave Sir Illidan runs away. I don't quite remember that line from him in the past.
Well, because the ultimate, it has this huge range. If you pick I call it the sniper one. I'm like, boom, you hit somebody, you're doing tons of damage, and then you're like, I gotta get out of here before the rest of the team finds me. Like, if they swing, I'm dead.
I totally have to do it at some point in the week. We need to pick a day and do this. We'll get you, Blank, yourself, Parv, myself. We'll get some other the MMO buffers. I think Kai is in. I think some others are in, and we'll create a 5. We'll get on voice comms, and we'll see just how horribly we can do. So maybe we'll plan that. Cool. Maybe we will. We'll live stream it. We'll see what happens. So I'll let people know when that's going to happen. But it's time to change segments. So, hold on to your horses, your hats, and your herrings. I have no idea why, but if you've got a herring, don't drop it. It is time for the segment, for Top Draw, for Hearthstone, and we get to explore the Death Rattle with Pseudo and Marsh.
Hello, everybody. It is Pseudo, and I am joined by the illustrious, immortal, and the most awesomest of awesomenesses, Dr. Marshmallows.
Greetings, mortals. Welcome to my den of destruction.
You know, you have a reason for why you have such destruction around you. It's not without purpose.
This is the end of 7-year degree. Sorry.
Or is it just the beginning? Right. Well, anyway, welcome to the Top Draw portion of the Blizzard forecast, pre-recorded for your benefit, love, and enjoyment. Anyway, we actually have quite a bit of news to go over, so we're going to just, I guess, bounce right into it. And I am going to start off by saying, you know, it's really lovely that Curse of Naxxramas is going to bring more than just Death Rattle, but at the same time, even the cards they're bringing out and are slowly revealing to everyone are going to be influenced by Death Rattle. How's that for a lead-in?
Oh, the Death Rattle. Ever.
I know.
yeah, I'm actually really interested to see some of the stuff that they come out with. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in Blizzard right now. Where are the other preview cards? Hurry the hell up! I want to see what I get to play with.
But see, what they have revealed is this gorgeous beauty, known as the Poison Seeds. Now this is interesting.
Yes. So, just in general terms, I'm pretty sure it's going to be up on the screen.
It is.
There?
Yes. For you, it's there. For me, it's there.
It's the 4-mana removal, basically. 4-mana global removal, which is a bit good. It destroys every minion and puts a 2/2 treant in its place. So some people might look at it and go, well, I'm just destroying minions and giving them back their new minions, but I don't know, I'm turning a rag into a 2/2 treant any day of the week for 4 mana. Just throwing that out there. And it has lots of really nifty sort of interactions, and as Pseudo pointed out, you've got all that death rattle stuff that's happening. So you can almost guarantee you're going to see boatloads of the damn things. But my favourite little interaction, I explained it to Pseudo before. I'm going to get Pseudo to explain it to you because I'm not sure she understands it.
Basically, what this is, for those of you who are not familiar with the Top Draw show, this is Marsh checking to see if I get a gold star, if I lose a gold star, or if I get half a gold star. It's an ongoing trend as he tries to mold me into a terrifyingly good TCG player. So far, I think I'm up to 1 gold star, but I think I lost that a couple of episodes of Top Draw before. We're going to be wiping the slate clean, though. But anyway, yes. So what we have here is a removal card. And yes, as Marsh had said, some people are going to look at it and go, but I'm not really doing much. Actually, you're doing an awful lot. This is a removal, especially when you start to use something called Soul of the Forest, which I will bring up here on the screen now. Soul of the Forest is a 4-mana card that allows you to give your minions Death Rattle, where they summon, yet again, more treants. So what you've basically guaranteed for yourself is for 4 mana, well, and 8 mana if you actually count the actual poison seeds, and you mix this in as well, you have the ability to have many minions that don't die to start, which gives you a whole bunch of extra play and allows you to be a bit more aggressive in your play as well as defensive, depending upon if you pull out a certain card, which we'll be discussing at some point in time, but not today. Actually, no, we will be, won't we? Because we're going to be talking about the Shieldmaster.
Yes. Yeah, so sort of pretty much hit on the nail on the head. What's the 2/2s?
Did I get a star?
Savage Roar, I think. Yeah. Or, you can have half a star because I already explained it to you. You're parroting me at this point. Let's be honest. You can have half the star for remembering.
I can get half the star for remembering. Wow. Right. So the question of whether or not this makes the druids the quote-unquote OP as they need to be or not, it is going to be up for debate because, as Marsh says, we have not seen the other cards yet. I mean, we're kind of getting teasers and yeah. So when it comes down to it, the actual poison seeds is pretty much interesting. But again,
it's a really good card. It fills an area that druids are sort of lacking since the savagery nerf, which is an AoE clear. While it's not a pure clear, it doesn't kill everything point blank, but it gives them that ability to deal with that Ragnaros without having to either naturalize it or to throw a creature and a big spell into it. It fills a void. So I really like this card.
I wonder if that's what they're planning on doing with a lot of the class cards that they're planning to bring to Curse of Naxxramas. I wonder if they recognize certain classes really are lacking in certain areas, and this is their way to try to make up for it.
It's a good idea. You can never have every class on the same parallel.
You don't want that.
It's going to be great. Exactly. But you need to address some of the content gap that's in there. Players need to have the option to have a board clear if they want a board clear. And, Druids didn't have that, and soon they will.
Yeah, and it's something I'm going to stress for anyone who has not watched our previous Top Draw shows, and if you really want to go back and watch them, I recommend it. But, trying to build a deck that answers all of the problems is a good way to get yourself killed and not be successful. There are a lot of things and you need to do when you start to build a deck, and one of the things is to make a decision. Do you want to have that board clear? Do you not? And I guess you're right, having that option is good. But as a reminder to everyone, just because you can put the card in your deck doesn't mean that you should. You really need to think about your deck and how you want to think about you want it to play being, aggro, or whether you want to be combo, or whether you want to just do something that's a little bit more, different. That's my lead in to the next part. If you actually want to take it or wait, that's your choice.
I just have one more thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Lizard, you have a choice here. This could be a potential combo card. Just saying, I want to see my combos.
See, I do too. I mean, as a Magic player, I'm a combo player, so not having the ability to really sit there and go, I can build these really wicked awesome combos, or potential combos, because, honestly, if you're going to play combo, you really kind of play the luck of the draw in a lot of cases. But yeah, I want those options, so bring it. Get on that. Whip snap.
Get myself a Devo hat.
Diva. Wow. Oh, God. Okay. Moving on quickly.
All right. Moving on. So, an area that's going to be very affected by these incoming changes is the tournament scene. A lot of people, I found this quite surprising myself, but a lot of people aren't aware that there are quite a lot of Hearthstone tournaments that do get run.
Really?
Most of them are community driven, however. So if you go to the Hearthstone Reddit, you can find out a lot more about these tournaments that are run. You might be able to, a lot of them are open access, so there's no sub fee. You can just go in, play at your specified time, and then chuff off when you lose. But looking at the results of these can give us a very good understanding of what's happening in the metagame, what cards are strong, what decks are strong, who's playing what and how they're playing it. So they're really, really important tools. So we're going to spend not much time, but a little bit of time talking about some of the tournaments and analysing how the metagame looks right now, and the decks that are predominantly up there in the top rankings, and maybe some reasons why.
Okay. So go ahead. Give us a little bit of a rundown on the tourneys. Or some tourney. I'm about to say an attorney. I don't know what magistrates have to do with it, or barristers, but wait, isn't a barrister someone who pours drinks? Oh, that's a barista. There goes my half gold star.
Down the rabbit hole we go. So there's a couple of big tournaments coming up. So you've got the OGN League, which is really for all-star Hearthstone players. You've got your Trumps and your Tosis and all that playing it. That's really select players only. Great to watch. Can't participate though. Then you have the community-driven stuff. Oh, sorry. You also have the Hearthstone World Championships that's coming, but we talked about those last week. And you've got the two that you can really join into as just about anybody, and that's the Top Deck After Hours tournament. Sorry, just the normal Top Deck tournament. I think they have paid tournaments as well. I think it's about £5. £5 or $5 US to enter. And then there's the Gosu Cup. So through Gosu Gamers, and they run a community Hearthstone tournament as well. Don't ask me what the prize pool is like for these things, because to be honest, I haven't participated in any of them because time time is a thing.
Wait, now see, what you should say is not time, you should say math, because we basically blame everything on math, because math. So, yes. But yeah, out of curiosity, I mean, with these particular tourneys going on, is there actually a running trend with I'd say the heroes and the decks that are being used, or the types of decks?
Yes. The cup runneth over with annoying decks.
Annoying in which respect? Because you get annoyed by a lot of things there, Marsh. I need to make certain I know which soapbox to pull out.
So the cup really does run us over with Hunter and Warrior decks right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's sort of the rise again of the mid-range control decks.
Interesting.
You got your Warrior decks, which are, once again, it is what you'd assume a Warrior deck would end up looking like. You got your lots of weapons and taking damage to deal damage and all that sort of jazz. But it focuses a lot on sort of putting out those real value removals and surviving until you can drop a Yeti or a Khan in that mid game and really control the mid game until you can just drop stuff that kills everybody. Ragnaros, Alexstrasza, Grummish Hellscreen. So you can look at it as like a mid to late game control or late game control depending on how you play it. But the idea is, try not to die, get to 8 mana and then proceed to win. There's not really much to say about them. Like, now, if you're not playing the aggro deck to kill it, then it's going to kill you.
So in that particular case, is it really a matter of how the cards draw, or is it really a matter of who goes first? Because, and as we've discussed, there was a bit of a debate and a controversy as to the second player, or the player who plays second, getting a coin and an extra card, which kind of allowed for a serious amount of control and advantages. All of the advantages, as one of our episodes discussed. But in that particular case, I mean, are we kind of looking at it at a situation where it really is that, or?
Well, yes and no. Like, metrics has shown over time. Blizzard has put out a lot of their data about the way they've created first and second turn. Over time, it balances out. Sometimes it might seem really in one person's favour, but at the end of the day, it has to do with the combination of the cards you draw or the cards you have access to, and whether you go first or second.
Right.
It's not one or the other.
Well, let's just say we're not going to go too deep into that because we've covered that in a previous Top Draw episode.
That we have.
But yes.
So the other deck that really runneth over is basically the deck that's built to beat this deck, which is a bit of a mid-game hunter control-y deck, or aggro hunter. Depends on who's playing. A lot of it right now is aggro hunter, just because aggro hunter seems to be beating control warrior, simply because aggro hunter attacks warrior. Only way warrior can really deal with those creatures that are attacking, use a weapon to kill it.
Take damage, yeah.
Not so great against a hunter. That's why you're seeing a lot of hunter reappear. The other side of it is the hunters that have taken that a little bit further towards the mid game. They started running some eagle horn bows, a few more late game orientated cards, but they're making up for it by playing like Leroy Jenkins and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
No one ever thought Leroy would become a thing, but Leroy is a thing.
Leroy is meta. Go figure.
Yes.
Well, at least he's got chicken. Okay.
And there's only one last thing, which is Trump's or / Reynard's Zoo Warlock.
Warlock Zoo.
Play all the dudes and make sure they're cheap. That's how that works. Think of it as it's kind of like the old aggro paladin, except in Warlock. It's basically play as many dudes as possible and try to kill them before they kill you.
Play all the dudes.
Yeah, basically. Play all the dudes, draw a lot of cards, play more dudes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let us take a quick step into a little bit of, I kind of want to dig into it, but we just don't have the time. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to move into this part of the Top Draw Blizzard Forecast version, and we're going to discuss a card. Oh, yes.
We're discussing a card.
We're discussing a card. Oh, yes. Now, for those of you who play online TCGs, not online TCGs, but who are familiar with games like Magic the Gathering, you have probably heard of Vanilla Bear. And if you have, then great. And if you haven't and you've actually caught it and learned about Vanilla Bear through our Top Draw teaching that we have done in the past, excellent as well. But if you've also been a Top Draw fan in the past, you're going to understand the concept of a baby drop bear. So what we're actually going to discuss today is a card that is a baby drop bear with vanilla icing on it, looking ever so cute in a terrifyingly way. Vanilla drop bears. And no,
has the baby, the baby thinks with big eyes, oh, and then my face. That's how this works.
So yes, what we're going to be discussing is a card called the Argent Squire. This is a 1/1 or a 1/1 for 1, but the 1/1 for 1 comes with the icing of a divine shield, which is lovely.
Is amazing.
Okay, all right. I'll believe this. Any card that has multiple things besides just having the health and the defense, or the health and the attack, actually equal to the mana you put down makes something amazing. But Divine Shield in its own right is kind of a little bit OP. It's kind of, I hit you, but you don't hit me. For those of you who didn't know what that was. But yes, so let me ask you then, Marsh. You say it's amazing. Should it be in every deck?
No. You're playing this in every deck, you're doing it wrong. Wrong, I tell you.
What, it's not a Chillwind Yeti? Or the Chillwind Yeti should be in every deck possible?
No, wrong, slap. What makes this card good is that 9 times out of 10, it will be able to deal 2 or more damage before it dies. Or it will take more than 1 mana worth of stuff to deal with. It will either take 2 mana and a card, or it will absorb 2 attacks from a creature with attack greater than 1. It does a lot of stuff for one mana. So
yeah, it does.
It's a little bit of an esoteric idea, but basically you can think of it. Your first turn is 1 mana Argent Squire. Your opponent then needs to be able to deal with your Argent Squire some way. If a mage goes, well, I'm just going to ping it with my hero ability. Look, your Argent Squire, for its Divine Shield, has just gone 2 mana and the entire second turn of the mage. Even if they go, well, I'm going to drop my 2/3 Crocodile. Okay, you've now got to swing into it twice to take it down. Oh, it's just absorbed 4 damage. So it's 4 damage you didn't take simply because you played the 1/1 Argent Squire. A really good card. It can be used early game, it can be used defensively or offensively. So defensively because, it's a pest and has to be dealt with at some point.
Right.
So it generally takes more to deal with than it costs, which makes it a good card in itself. And then you can always pump it, or you swing in for a couple of damage. If they leave it alone, eventually it's going to do their entire health total. So it is going to almost always get his mana worth.
Well, it definitely, the moment it hits the board, creates a 20-turn timer. So
yeah, well, that's it.
You're either going to be eaten and nibbled away slowly, or you're going to actually be a really good diversion to get rid of some potential hate coming your way, which can help you with a control deck, that's for certain.
Indeed. So some people say, why don't I just play Wisp then? Doesn't Wisp do the same thing?
We have had an actual episode all about Wisps, and if anybody is playing Wisps, stop it. Stop it. It is a waste of a card in your 30-card slot. It is a waste. So much more could be done better. So much. But anyway, if you want to learn about that, go ahead and watch a previous episode. We went off on that one. That was a funny episode. But anyway.
Pseudo throwing a soapbox. I like it. I like it when Pseudo gets up there. So it's very lonely up here by myself.
That's because I'm usually trying to prevent people from knocking you off it. Hold back, everybody. Let them finish. But yes. So, as you were saying, I mean, in this particular, I could see a use for this in an aggro, and I can see a use for this in a control. I could see a use for this in a mid game. I could see a use for it in a late game. But as you said, its true value comes out in the start of the game. You know, so the question becomes, what happens if it shows up in your hand mid game or late game?
Yeah, this is unfortunate. But
really,
you have to weigh it against the advantages it brings early game. Early game and mid game, it's fantastic. Like in mid game, generally it will either soak up some damage, or it will at all points it tends to soak up a little bit of damage. It tends to soak up more damage than what it's worth. But in the early game, he does so much more because you can't. Paying 2 mana generally gets you something 2. So you can kill something. There's lots of stuff that works around 2, and because it has that divine shield, it generally gets heal 2. So it becomes of a much higher value. Right. But when you get late game, sure, it does the same thing, but it's a lot easier to deal with. So you don't get the same inherent value from it, but you still get more than that one. So it's almost always worth playing if you're drawing late game.
Okay.
So yes, you can put it in every deck type, but you've got to weigh up the benefits. Would I rather have it in a control deck or an aggro deck? What's its role? That sort of things.
I think for me, this particular card is one of the ones that I try to use a lot until I can find something to replace it. It's definitely a proxy card in some respects, because I don't have the ability to play Hearthstone as much as a lot of people, and I sure as heck don't have the money to sink into it. I'm a pauper here, folks. I'm a poor woman. But having the ability to use a card like this as a proxy for waiting for something better, it's better than nothing. It's better than a bloody wisp, is really what it comes down to. It's actually better than quite a few of the 1/1/1s that are out there. It's got a bit of something extra to it. It's got that frosting that makes it pretty awesome, which makes it a baby drought bear, which makes it brilliant, which of course leads into the next section. Don't you like the segue?
I love it when the segues work so well, just like that. They're so contrived when you know what's coming next, but...
We're trying really hard to fit like an hour show in like what small time frame we get for the Blizzard forecast. So bear with us, folks. Good grief.
Okay, our next spin. So, Pseudo, you say you're playing the Pauper, are you?
Why, yes, Marsh. I am a pauper.
So here at Top Draw, we're all about sort of trying to lower that barrier to entry for players. How can you get the most bang for your buck? What can you do so that you don't have to invest all this time and effort and money, lots of money, into a game to get some fun out of it? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can play Hearthstone well without necessarily having to chuck hundreds of dollars in on getting packs and potentially not getting the card you wanted.
Okay. So, can I state that the first step would be to play all classes up to level 10?
Yes. Look, at the end of the day, I don't care how you do it. Play the AI, play against your friend. We've done some naughty things here to get stuff up to 10 as fast as possible. I don't care how you do it, but you need to get to level 10. On every class, because it gives you so many. What? Don't laugh at me. You know what you did, Pseudo.
I'm trying to think of what I did. I'm sort of going, I've done something.
You know what you did. Yeah. So you need to unlock all those free cards. Let's be honest, they're free cards. Why wouldn't you want them? Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna turn my nose up. A bunch of free cards that, at the end of the day, they're pretty good. You unlock all the mage cards first, and you can build a deck that can pretty much crush all the AI decks because they don't have those extra 20 cards or whatever it is. So you need to get to level 10 first. That's your first step, playing the Pauper. Your next step is to sort of to look for those cards that you can put in every deck. That no matter when you draw them, where you draw them, they're always going to be good. And but those cards that no matter what deck you're playing, no matter what type you're playing, there's something that you want to put in there because they have. They might be common, but they can trounce a rare any day. They're much better than a rare a lot of the time.
Could this possibly be your way of saying stay away from the Murlocs, use a Chillwind Yeti?
Yeah. In my contrived fashion, yes it is. Look,
I'm just putting the Chillwind Yeti up on the screen.
You are?
Yeah. You have a Chillwind Yeti up on the screen. This is the vanilla, the baby drop bear, this is the big granddaddy of them all.
Yeah, this is his big brother's big brother. He watches you with video cameras while you sleep. He's come to terrorize the town.
Great.
Chillwind Yeti is a card you want to get 4 copies of.
4?
Find a way to get 4 copies in your damn deck.
What?
You want it.
Well, you can't get 4 into a deck.
I don't care.
Marsh, bringing you valuable advice.
Find a way, Pseudo. Find it. Look.
There is a way.
Play it offline. Make cards.
Well, that is one way to do it. No, the other way to do it is to find cards that have some kind of variable that makes them relatively similar in value, and put them in as proxies.
Gee, I wonder what card that could possibly be, Pseudo.
I don't know.
Don't know?
I don't know.
You sure you don't have a button to press there?
I don't know. I actually am now sitting going, oh no, do I have buttons to press? I would have a button to press, but for some reason, I did not add that card.
That is unfortunate.
How about if I go forth and try to make that occur? Yeah, it's there.
I will.
It's there, and I just moved us, and we've disappeared. Ta-da! We're back.
I will blitter on while you deal with technical issues. The chillers have come back for their vengeance.
Yes. So Chillwind Yetis. Yes, go ahead.
What you want are Chillwind Yetis and Sentient Shield Masters. These are the 2 cards you want. In every deck, when you're starting up, if you can get 2 of each of these in your deck and you can justify it, then that's what you want. They have high value in their cards for their mana cost. The Chillwind Yeti gets you comparative stats to anything else in that slot that isn't, a ridiculous cost card. 4/5 for 4 is great, and the Sentient Shield Master runs very much along the same lines, being a 3/5 button taunt. So one of them is aggressive, one of them is defensive. Chillwind Yeti lets you, turn things sideways if I use a Magic Gathering term and hit people, and generally he will take out 2 or 3 cards just because he sits in that area where he is hard to deal with, because he costs 4 mana, and generally stuff that costs 4 or 5 mana can't deal with stuff that has 5 health. So
now,
generally
see,
2 more cards.
That's a term we haven't discussed yet. So I'm sitting here going, turn it sideways and hit stuff. I'm going to assume that has to deal with tapping.
Yeah, basically. It's
okay.
Magic Gathering, you have to hit things sideways. It's called tapping. If something goes sideways, it means it's doing stuff.
Even though if the world goes sideways or the situation goes sideways, it's actually oh no.
Yeah.
Terminology. Learn it. Working on it.
We don't say that in Australia. We have some we have a proclivity for profanity down here, so turning it sideways is I'm not allowed to say the substitute on this show. So
no, you're not. But yes, so building up from the pauper deck, you have these 2 cards. They're common cards. So
these are common cards. We're going to strive to bring you a couple of common cards or a couple of cards every week that you want to look at playing around with. And to start with, it's going to have to be these 2. You need to, if you're playing on a budget, these are the two cards that you need to look at, considering to put in basically every deck, as my computer decides I haven't been doing stuff long enough and wants to put on my screensaver. Yes, these are the cards you want to consider putting in every deck for now, until you get something that can replace them or something that fits your curve better. But it will take a while. You want to build around these cards to start, because that's where a lot of your cards are going to start. You're going to start very mid-gamey from those starter cards, build a mid-game deck, and crush people, get some gold, open some packs, and move from there. But
Excellent.
Get two of each of these and watch your game skyrocket.
So basically, yeah, you've got 4 cards already in your 30 that are common and useful. Wow. Well usage. Yes. So.
As a linguist, I'm putting this is your speech.
Oh God! Don't pull out the. Oh no, Marsh. Oh gosh, I can't believe you actually got a red pen. Actually, yes, I can believe it, but I don't want to have the red pen used on me. No.
Actually, it's a pink highlight.
Yes, but it's close enough. It's a proxy.
Yes, indeed it is.
But yes, so what we've gone through is we've gone through quite a few cards today. We've looked at some of the tourney. We've looked at some of what is cuppeth overflowing, or cuppeth runneth over, as you call it, when it comes to the tournaments. And we've also looked a little bit at poison seeds. I'm really interested to see how all of this stuff pans out. We will have more for you next week. We're going to look at restarting up Top Draw this Saturday, but Marsh and I have to work out a schedule where we actually cross time and space together, and there's no issues.
Doctor Who's on vacation. The Doctor's on vacation, so we need to actually use the internet in some fashion.
Yes, which is really weird. I'm not used to this. I blame math, because math. But yes, I want to thank Dr. Marsh for joining me. We'll send it back to Misp in the studio in just a second. But you want to say bye-byes? And remember, if you have questions, comments, or anything you want us to tackle in this segment of the Blizzard Forecast, please let us know through voice at MMOBuff.TV, or you can send us twits just by sending us messages to Twitter.
Twitter me. I don't have very many people twittering me, so chances are if you want to Twitter me, I will Twitter you back.
Great! Send him an influx. Do me a favor, guys. Send him pictures of penguins. Seriously.
Yes.
Send pictures of penguins.
I have a steampunk penguin, and it needs it.
Wow. Okay. So we've learned a little bit more than we knew about Marsh and myself as well. But yes, this particular version of Top Draw for the Blizzard Forecast is being brought to you by the number Blue, Cupcake Cookies, and the Argent Squire. Because, remember, baby drop bears deserve love too. Toodle pip.
I'm watching this.
And with that, we are back, and look, people's cameras have moved. Let's fix the moving cameras. There we go. And yet again, you weren't in the Wendy house, Black.
You guys might want to try and catch me in the Viking Princess tent, but people have tried to donate. People have tried to do a lot of crazy stuff. It's not going to happen. It will happen, I'll tell you. The next charity event that we do, somebody's going to donate, and I'm going to be in that thing, and it will be just like all the other stuff people catch. It'll be on YouTube, it'll be a GIF, it'll be something, but not today.
We're just waiting for that to happen. The stuff we see with the videos rolling past, I saw you raise your eyebrows. Okay, folks, we're going to be taking a very quick break, and then when we're going to be coming back, you're going to be, Parv, you get to disappear. No Wendy house for you. But myself and Blank are going to be, exploring a few things. Oh, have we gone off? Have we gone offline? We seem to have a technical glitch. Let's see what's happening. I'm hoping this is going to come back for people, but I've just been told the Twitch stream has died. Let me see. And part of you have no mic.
I was muted.
We have the mic. There we go. So, let's roll ourselves a quick break. When we come back, myself and Blank are going to be diving into several things on Draenor before we all have a chat. So, I'm going to speak to my magic producer. He's going to push some buttons. And we should get a quick 60-second break for a few people. Meanwhile, I'm going to put up the break graphic. And we're back with more button pushing and hopefully a few less muted mics. Hopefully everyone is still with us.
Still here? Still here.
Still here. Well, Blank. This is where I get to sit back and relax and you talk a lot, yes?
It's my time to shine. I know I don't get to be Parv right now. I get to be me. Sometimes with the identities around here, nobody knows who's who anymore, but I'm going to do my best. So, just so you folks know, what we're going to be doing is talking a little bit about blue posts that you may have missed, and then we'll dig into a topic for a little bit. That's kind of how the segment's going to roll. So, first blue post that I think you guys should know about is they're doing a 50% off. Well-timed, as always. That goes along with some of the other things we're going to talk about. But if you really are interested in WoW, both the game and MOP are 50% off, and it ends on May 6th. So that is a blue post. It's important to know. Yeah, that especially if you're coming in and you're buying these, 50% kind of helps seal a wall a little bit. So actually going to drop you guys a link here, and I'm sure it will actually be in the YouTube. The next blue post that's notable that I wanted to talk about, there seems to be a little bit of a change going on with Blizzard. They're making changes that they've learned, not only from what they've done, but from what they're seeing other people doing. They put up a fan site profile. This is kind of fantastic. They go into, who these people are, what they bring, and then not only is it promotion for somebody who's running a site, but it also explains in detail, what does it have. So for this one, again, you guys can get yourself a nice, pretty little link here. This is for Wowhead. If you played World of Warcraft, you know what Wowhead is. If you're new, this is a resource tool that they're promoting. Hey, you might want to check this out. They've got their news here. They've got guides. And there's also a whole entire community. Big gold star from the Viking King to Blizzard. That nod to community, that's important. Saying, thank you to a place that, isn't just like a Curse Gaming or an IGN, but a smaller site. Still big, but a smaller site is you get a gold star for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing the other ones that they roll out with.
It's something we've actually seen recently in MMOs full stop. I won't get too much into sort of what we do on the Monday night MMO Buff show. But over the last few years, we've seen an evolution in content being one way. Here, have content. You will eat it. You will be grateful for it. To a period where people went, we're not going to show you anything. We're just going to give it to you at the last moment, and no sneak previews. No, it's ours. You can't have it. You can't play it.
Yep.
That one didn't work very well. And now we're into an arena where people are saying, what do you want? What do you want to see? What do you want to do? And some of the newer companies have done that really well. And for a large outfit like Blizzard, who have got so many streams of communication, it's a big ship for them to turn. And I've got to say, what I've seen in the last 12 months, there's a lot going on at Blizz HQ, and I think we're starting to see more and more of it.
Yeah. I definitely agree. They are... I would liken them to the old rich guy sitting on his porch, kind of rocking back and forth, and somebody's like, "Hey, did you know that you could make your investment times 2 if you tried this?" And he's like, puts down his iced tea, and he's like, "Well, maybe I want to check that out," because these smaller companies are doing it. Okay, we won't dig into it too much, but I give them a big thumbs up. It's nice to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing more profiles. Like, who do they pick next? How do they write it up? And I think it goes along with the fact that they're not only, putting out a new expansion along with trying to fix the things from the past, but they're also saying, this part is actually kind of important. It's not enough for me personally, but it's a step forward, and I applaud them for that. So,
yeah, I mean, one thing we can say about World of Warcraft, it is, it's an established game that's been on a journey, and you can plot its journey, how it's worked at different points in time, who it's appealed to. For everyone, it's had highs and lows, and I'm sure we all disagree on those highs and lows. I look back and go, Naxxramas, 40-man, fantastic. Other stuff more recently, not so fantastic. Yet others will have the opposite view. They turn around and go, Nax, that was just 40-man elite stuff. That didn't interest us. No one could get in and play it. But now look at all the fun stuff we can do. So everyone has a different viewpoint, a different opinion. And, of course, we're now entering we're entering Draenor. We're entering the Draenor expansion, Warlords. And we've got a really interesting mix of what was old and what is new. Some ideas have come back from the past, some new ideas are being dropped in. And there was a really interesting retrospective produced the other day that we've looked at, which tracked the history of raiding. So 2 things we're going to look at now. We're going to talk a little bit about that journey and your thoughts, and then we're going to segue into your favourite topic. So I can hide behind this desk, and you can talk about PvP.
All right. So let me find a link for you. Ms. likes to bounce around my document here. This is from MMO Champion. I'm expecting them to get the next profile. This is a look back. And it's very candid, and a lot of this stuff. I mean, if you play World of Warcraft and you raided, if you played it casually, you may not care. This is amazing to read over. This is the first part, and then there's the second part. Yes, they are. There's only 2 out so far. They've done Vanilla on up, and then they did Cataclysm to today, and then I believe the next one is going to be like where we're looking to go in the future and why we made the choices we've made. But they've talked about all sorts of stuff where, the 40-man's bringing in 20-mans, why they did that sort of stuff, initially, and then switching into the Burning Crusade, making raiding more accessible. It's really great to have this. A lot of people like to peek behind that curtain, and it's very rare. Unless you go to a convention, or you work for a media company and you get a chance to really sit down and turn that camera off and be like, hey man, you connect one-on-one. A lot of us regular gamers, we don't get that chance. It's very rare. And this is that, dude, they just kind of took the curtain. You're like, well, here's the whole show. There were a lot of very interesting things in here. They talked about, bringing in 10-man raiding with Karazhan, and why they wanted to adjust things for the raid groups and why they made that choice. And then they also talked about, things like, Sunwell. And if you guys remember, there was a huge thing with buffing and nerfing bosses. And I'm still looking around. I'm trying to find a Blizz blue post who's mentioned, how difficult that can be to have a boss that's tuned a certain way and then have to adjust him while he's live.
I actually did touch on that in an interview with Ian, and I think it's Hesiakatosis. I always get this horribly wrong with that surname, so apologies, Ian. When we did our interview back at BlizzCon, balance is very, very, very challenging, and you can find that somewhere. And one thing that I picked up on in that article was the statement that post Naxxramas, they took the view that at the start of patch 2, things were actually incorrectly tuned. And that's a real interesting one, because those people that came out of 40-man Nax, which admittedly was a small percentage that got through it all, found that content to be just right. It was continuing the challenge that we'd been training for and we used to. Yet everyone that stepped in went, we've got to raiding, and we've now hit a brick wall. Because the delta, the gap, had grown to be so big. Someone new coming into the game really had nowhere to go, nothing to do, nothing to see. So they released patch 2.1. And then, of course, you had the whole, we killed this before patch 2.1. Well, we killed it after patch 2.1. And they set a new paradigm. And the paradigm was to say, okay, every single tier of raiding will have an entry-level point. Every time we release a new expansion, the first one will be get geared up, get ready, get going. And then in hopefully not such a long timeline, there'll be, and here's something new for you to go and get to grips with. And that will be a step up in difficulty. And of course now you've got 2 step ups in difficulty and something else coming around the future with Draenor, in that you've got the normal content, so you can work your way through that, but the best guilds in the world are going to hit it hard and they're going to hit it fast and they're going to get through it quickly. And then they're going to do the hard modes. The stuff that popped in, I think in Ulduar, I believe it was, for the first time. That's probably my second favourite raid instance. So that's how I see the evolution on the big bones of the evolution. We've gone from 40-man, sadly, down to 25 for reasons of accessibility and content. Then we've had changes to the difficulty level of things to give you an entry point at each tier of raiding. But they've countered that with the introduction of heroic modes and harder challenges. So the idea is the top guilds spend a long, long time on the hard stuff while everyone else works their way through. I won't say the easy stuff, I'll say the normal stuff. I'll leave words like easy for LFR that came even later.
Right.
That's the journey in the old school element. Is it a smart journey? What do you think of it? What does that say about what they're going to be doing with what they've done with Kata and what they're going to be doing with Draenor? And I'm now going to stop because I can talk about raiding far too much.
I think they finally looked at. Let's back this up a second. You're a huge company. You've got millions of people on your forums. I couldn't imagine the folks whose job is just to look at the forums and sort through. And I think about this objectively. This person is saying this. This is what he's typed, him or her. This is what they're really saying. Sometimes it's very hard to do. I think it's taken this long for them to really boil down and look at the numbers and say, this is what people want. They want it to be accessible to a point. And we have to make it so that folks are able to get in and do what is end game.
Mm-hmm.
However, we can still gate this process and the gear and the tiers that they get, and this is just another refinement of that. They went from Raid Finder, Flexible, Normals, Heroics, 10s and 25s. Now they said, we're going to give you that hard back again, but we're also going to make it so that the casual care bears who only raid on a Saturday, who want to see that content, can, and still feel that same feeling. Whether to the hardcore person when they're chasing that that title or that achievement, they want to not only feel it, but that I'm wearing the shoulders. To those who want to just
and not I just bought them with tokens.
Right, exactly. Now, what they've said is we're going to adjust this. You can do 10 to 25, Raid Finder, Normal, and Heroic, but the Mythic is going to be 20, and it's going to be difficult. So that next tier up, the hardcore, are happy that 5%. And I'm going to say that 95 all the way down to that 30 has Normal and Heroics at a good pace. And then you've got Raid Finder for the rest who are just like, I play this game because it's pretty, and my friends play it, and we pick flowers, and we drink beers while fishing on us. They're still able to do the end game content, but they're not going to be achieving that mythic level that the hardcore players want to establish themselves. And this is a social structure that they've had to put into a game. That's difficult.
Is there a place for LFR as part of a gearing up process? I mean, there've been points where LFR was a quick way to get a foot on the ladder.
In my opinion, this works well. If they make a refinement to this, it'll be based upon feedback. But LFR, let's say you come new to the game, or you're not that skilled. Your LFR and your normals give you a chance to really grow and learn. They allow you to find a guild that's competitive or progressive on your server without moving, because that's part of the raiding social scene, is once you get to a certain point and you get that hardcore along with their raid structure. Let's say you get to a certain point where you're on the number 3 on your server, and the number 1 is just a couple of ahead of you. you start looking elsewhere if you're really skilled or you want more opportunities or that's what you're chasing, that mythic level, you might go apply to another server somewhere. LFR is a viable stepping stone for those who are new, for those who need to fine-tune their skills, for those who are just coming in. But what I think a lot of the big problems with it in its old function was that it was a viable way to be at that same normal heroic level with folks. It was an actual stepping stone. It was just, I'm here. And that's what a lot of people got frustrated with.
Okay, while we're doing a retrospective, let's pick up something else from that document. And let's relate it to a question we got in the chat from Coolman499. So, one of the things they mentioned in the doc that I recall is the earliest kill from launch through to Lucifer, the first boss of Molten Core, being killed, was 2 months.
Yeah.
Now, people smile now when you think of a new piece of content, and the first kill took 2 months. That included leveling. Leveling used to take a long time. It took, it was measured in days. Early on, many people would have a level time of 20, 30, 40 plus days played. Mm-hmm. This is not a click a few buttons and I'm leveled and I've done it inside a week. You just did not level instantly. I mean, I know I leveled very slowly in my first ever MMO, on my first ever character. And now we've got a challenge to solve. Now, the level cap goes up in Draenor to 100. Obviously, if the original vanilla leveling curve was in place, it would take people a very long time to hit 100 with that exponential growth of level. Now, the leveling curve has been adjusted multiple times as we've travelled, and there are people that still think it takes too long to level a new character, and there's people that complain that it's too easy and that it's too quick. Now, they've introduced the ability now with the pre-order to zap to level 90. So here is my question. And I'm going to come back to Coolman's question in a moment. You're 90. How long should it take you to hit 100 in your personal view? And bear in mind there are two sorts of 90s. There are the, I've just been given a level 90 character, what do these buttons do? Mm-hmm. And there is the, I have over a year played on my character. I know what these buttons do. Pretty well. That's a dilemma. So how long should it take to level from 90 to 100 to balance the investment in the game and the reward of making 100 mean something?
Well, with the boost, first of all, this is the first time that they've kind of gone down the gray line of pay to win. You no longer have a time investment. You can invest your money, which is also an investment of time. I go to work. I make $20 an hour. I spend this many hours of my time, and it saves me from having to do this in the game. A lot of people, it's a very slippery slope to walk on, and they've said, go ahead, we want to do it. 90 to 100, they are going to base it along the same metrics they've always had. The time to kill, the time to complete quest, and travel time from zones, how big they are. They normally try to hit a certain number, and they're very good. I will give them this with their metrics of understanding the hardcore guilds that are all going to have that one person, that one account that like 4 people play on to get them that, server first, whatever achievement, is going to do it in this amount of time. They've also see the lower end of the 2 guys who get on for 2 hours a night, a couple of days, and then they look at that, and that's where they will adjust that sort of stuff. How long do I think it'll take? I have no idea. What I do know is that they look at those metrics and they make it so that the casual guys having fun when they want will still make it to max level, but not at that vanilla pace ever again. Because that vanilla pace was brutal for casual people. It was brutal. People complain about grindy MMOs. Well, people complain about grindy MMOs now. They're like, they port over Terra or Arcade, and everyone's like, oh man, this takes forever. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, I remember being stuck in that desert. I don't even remember what it is, that level 40 desert area.
Silithus?
just being like, I hate my life, and if I see another sandy area, I'm probably going to freak out. No, Gadgeton.
Oh, Gadgeton. Yeah. Sorry, I put that expansion there.
Please help me. I can't, like...
But there was a racetrack and everything.
Dude, the rate... Yeah, I felt like I was running laps around that in my mind in that place. A lot of companies, and I've spoken to a lot of different developers because I do a lot of testing for combat and leveling. I do a lot of feedback. I've never been hired by a company, but I have worked on many different games on the back end, whether friends or family QA, and sat there and gone over. Here's what you're getting. If I go, to put it nicely, balls to the wall, I can be max level in 50 hours. Now, if I take my time and explore, the metric for me, knowing the game, takes about 120 hours. Without knowing the game, the first time I did it, fast and hard as possible, took me 72. So they look at all these numbers and they break it down. I really hope that they make that journey, the 90 to 100, fun. But I love Blizzard, but they're well aware of their mistakes in their past, and they're going to adjust all this other stuff. I don't see them adjusting the time to level or anything like that. It's going to be the same couple of days. It's whatever other...
Put it for me in hours. How many hours do you think it will take you on a level 90 to get to 100?
Anywhere from 30 to 50, depending.
Yeah.
That's about the metric that people are going for.
That's probably 100 for me because I'm slow, but there you go.
But no, that's really what... And I've spoken to developers. They aim for that. Because if the hardcore want to be hardcore, they don't even really care about that. They're just like, we want the people from that 70% and below to have fun and enjoy it and feel incentivized to continue instead of being like, I'm done.
And that's going to be something they need to actually look at, because a couple of comments in the chat, the Coleman comment amongst others, saying he wants to feel like he's hit 100, he can go back and level another character 0 to 100 and do the content and quest he's missed. Now, that isn't a function of time, that is a function of fun. Do I want to be doing this? Now, I actually don't like seeing people level in 5 minutes flat. I know that's a dichotomy because I complain that I level too slowly, but I think it should be meaningful. If someone is level 100, I want to go, that player knows how to play their hunter, because they can't get there without playing their hunter because it's hard. At least I'd like to be able to say that. And once upon a time I could. Maybe they can bring that back.
No, that's what they're doing with the raid structure. They've done that with the raid structure and the changes to PvP in the actual battlegrounds, open world sort of stuff. But they'll never go back to leveling, because leveling for most MMOs, and there's some RPers that are going to send me some hate mail for this. It is not about the journey. It is not about the quest text. It is about the end. It is about where you're going and what you do. It used to be about the iconic characters you spoke to, about the quest, the actual combat, what the word I want, drama, conflict. The conflict in the game mattered. Now, it's just, I'm Alliance, woo, you used to know what that meant. You used to know, like, the big characters, and it meant something. It's no longer a thing.
I still remember in the expansion, the first time you got that huge cutscene and you saw the whole undead video and everything else that came with it when they put that in for the very first time as a piece of tech. And it was just, whoa, what's going on here? The conflict, the characters, the iconic stuff is still there, but I guess you've got two breeds of players. You've got I like this stuff, but I care about raiding. And then you've got the people that just say, well, I don't really care about raiding. Stop talking about it. What else is going on? I don't know. There looks like there's going to be a lot of stuff there. But, Blank, I am looking at the clock. I know you're going to be foaming to talk about PvP. You have 7 minutes to fill my ears with PvP before we bounce back and have the post-show chat.
There Let me track this here. All right, so there's a lot to talk about when it comes to PvP stuff. There seems to be a lot of discussion on the forums about bursting and healing, the changes that have been happening to healing. And we did get a couple of blue posts, and I'm going to read this one off just so you guys have a little, 15 seconds to top somebody off is long of an estimate. You can be choosing weaker heals to conserve mana. Our goal is that you can top somebody off in a hurry, but it'll be expensive. really, really worried about where burst windows are going to be. You know, that's one of the things, especially in the smaller ones. Well, 3-man is that nice, what I like to call the comfortable window. 3-man is good. You either double stack a healer, you go triple DPS, you do some crazy hybrid stuff, whatever. 2-man and 5 that's where things get crazy, because a burst window becomes everything you live on, depending on your comp.
Just elaborate for those that aren't so familiar. Burst window. This is nothing to do with a pane of glass exploding.
No, absolutely not. What you're looking at here is they're changing the way crowd control works. Before, you had certain levels of crowd control, and you no longer can see me line of sight, which is a soft one, or a hard CC, which is I am using a stun, or I'm using something on you. By using a stun, that would trigger 10 seconds. And then the next time something went on you, it had a diminishing return. Mm-hmm. So I would sap you, and if you trinket it, and if I sapped you again, which was highly unlikely, or I used a CC, it was less. And then if I used another one, it was less, and then you were immune for a certain amount of time. A burst window would be finding somebody at a position where they didn't have a trinket. Now, I will use priest, rogue, because that's what I'm most familiar with. We've made somebody, we've forced them into a situation where they've had to use their trinket. I would then wait until they were out of combat. Normally, after a priest feared them away, I would sap them. They're sitting in 10 seconds. This is when my healer stops healing and uses damaging abilities, and I pop every cooldown under the sun that's offensive to smash their face in. We have 10 seconds to end this. That is our burst window. This is the same for, and again, I played rogue, so rogue mage, where we've got a sheep off, we've got a hard sheep. They cannot get out. They do not have a trinket. Our burst window is now. You pop your pet, I'm popping, I'm going to be doing everything, preparation, let's do this. That is your burst window. It comes dynamically in which kind of group you're in. In 3s, it's very different, and in 5s, it's with certain setups, it's almost, we're switching. There's bait and switches. You'll be on a 5, you might be hitting someone so that the healer's paying attention. You throw 1 CC and just everybody, boom, pop somebody and they're dead. So burst window depends on your comp, but in essence, it is when you stop doing anything else except for melting somebody down as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Now, why this is important to know, or why, I could talk about PvP all day. It's crazy. They are adjusting, and we're not going to get too much into this. They are changing crowd control, and they're tiering them, which is good. WildStar was able to do this with theirs and be very upfront about it. I'm not saying they're taking a page out of this book. This is just a smart design decision. If I am stunned, I should not be able to use my character unless I use a freeing ability. If I am blinded, it has these effects. If I have 2 blinds on me, it should affect me as much as a stun would. And, we tier them all down. They are, and I'm not going to go too much into all of them. They're changing, incapacitates into mesmerizes. I'm not quite sure what a mesmerize is because I haven't been able to find that yet. They have made it so that if you pop your trinket, you can actually get immunity to the reapplication of that same effect. So running cyclone on cyclone on cyclone is not going to be a thing. You used to be able to cyclone somebody and then they would shrink it and then you'd have you'd reapply it and then they'd be stuck in it. Right now, and again, we are talking about something that is developing, and I just want to make that clear.
And who knows how it will change.
It's not a final product. It is still in testing. But at this time, you can pop a trinket, and it makes you can't have that same effect applied to you. That didn't used to be the case. What else do we have here? There have been a lot of changes made to things like silence. And silence actually triggers a DR on it. It didn't used to.
Again, terminology for those people that don't run around PvPing all the time. A DR.
DR. A diminishing return. Diminishing return is, you know what, I'm going to back this up because I'm putting the horse before the cart, we're still at the friggin' farmers. We're still putting fertilizer in the ground. Diminishing returns is a way of making it so you aren't continuously stuck in crowd control. It is a hard metric that lets you be freed out. So if I use my hardest CC, which is a stun, and I break out of it with my trinket, or in other games you dodge forward, or whatever it is, you now, instead of it being a full 5 seconds, it is now 2.5 seconds. So somebody reapplies something else to you, and you break out of it, or you stand in it, let's say it's a snare. The next one that applies to you is only going to apply for 0.75 of a second. And if another one is applied to you, it doesn't do anything until that diminishing return, whatever it is in whatever game, fully wears off. And that allows it so that you literally just don't sit in, like certain people will make certain builds, or even in certain games to just sit there and crap all day, every day. And I mean, I actually used to pride myself on balancing sap, kidney shot, what was the one with the open? With Garrote. We used to make druids cry. I would love to read druids cry.
You made hunters cry as well, if I remember correctly, playing a hunter.
Absolutely. Like, you were stuck, you were silenced,
and then I'm dead.
You were stuck again, and then thanks for the free 20 points, we're going to go to our next game. So diminishing returns is important, and why we're talking about that is because they're going to be adjusting where these CCs stand, how they're affected to how they apply to your character, and what you can do to stay out of them, and it's going to change the metagame immensely. So
there you have it, folks. 2 quick retrospectives, I suppose. A quick look at what has been happening in raiding, which has set ourselves up for the conversation in the future, and a quick look at one of the fundamentals of PvP that's going to be changing. So that means I get to push this magic button here, and we might still get to see Parv dancing to his disco lights if we're lucky. Let me push this button first. Oh, have we been quick enough?
I don't think we caught him. Can you do this move again? That was my favorite. yeah.
This one.
Yes. I've heard of night fever. This is Parv fever.
Oh man, it's a terrible fever to have. It's vicious.
It's a great fever.
So guys, what do we think? We've talked about a ton of different stuff today. We've had a number of topics. It's been a fun show. And we've got a few questions lurking in the channel as well, I suspect. But so Parv, you just got to listen to Blank talk about how he used to make hunters like me cry. Any thoughts on PvP coming up in Draenor?
I don't know. I feel I'm a little bit out of the loop with WoW now because I mean I was never like a huge PvPer. I used to be a hardcore raider, but as far as I'm aware, I stopped playing WoW midway through Wrath. I played from vanilla up until midway through Wrath, so I saw quite a lot of the evolution of the game. But from what I've seen, I have 2 younger brothers that still play the game actually, and my youngest brother says to me, "Yeah, they've homogenized all the rules a lot more. Everyone has a CC, everyone has a silence, everyone has an escape, and I'm not sure. I mean, Blank, are they intending to sort of specialize the classes more, or are they keeping this?"
Oh, we seem to have. No, we have got Blank's mic.
Looking to do is. Oh, sorry about that. I like to mute myself when I type because this keyboard is kind of loud. But it looks like they're trying to make it so that the skill ceiling is. God bless Arena, but there was. I don't know how much you guys played. There was a time where it was nothing but cooldown tracking, pillar humping, and waiting for your Q to pop. That's all life was. After 2K, it was run around, pillar hump until you had your next set. You blew your combos, you blew your stuff, and that was it. It wasn't even about the gear. They're trying to make that. They're trying to adjust that skill ceiling a little bit more, so that if people have sort of the same tools, those that are able to execute them better should come out on top.
They've got a balancing act as well, because obviously from a long while ago they came out with the bring the player, not the class. And that, of course, has pluses and minuses, because it leads into let's make everyone the same, but then there's no point. It doesn't matter what class you bring. Now, I don't like that cards on table. I played a PvE hunter. I worked really hard on my multi-traps, my utility, whilst doing good DPS, and I wanted to use those hunter tools to be an awesome thing in a raid. And I know other classes did their own thing as well, and certainly there was a time when, for example, I think second, third boss Molten Core, we had the Trank Shot. hunters were valuable. It was the hunter moment. And I bemoan the loss of that. Every class should have its moment. I do understand that it throws in some difficulties, but I find it to be a very good thing. But in short, from the people I've spoken to, I believe there appears to be a direction of less homogenization. How far they'll take it, I doubt they'll take it far enough for my personal preferences, but we'll see.
I mean, like, when I've got a 15-year-old brother using words like homogenized over a game, maybe he's, like, you know, like, not the typical WoW player, but honestly, I mean, I think if you look back to the vanilla days, like, we can all look back and go, oh, that was so great, you know, back in the day. If you go back on one of those servers, if you go, there's so much stuff that you're so glad they got rid of. I'm not sure I'd want to go back to times when, you know, a paladin couldn't really tank, even though they had a tank spec. Because it didn't really, like, what is the point in that? I kind of like homogenization.
Wasn't that the same point in time that a paladin also couldn't really kill anything?
Well, yeah, they were healers, really, that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it, but, like, why have, I can't remember what the classes were called back then, but, like, Protection Paladin was one, and like, you know, these things didn't really have any use. No, PvP, wasn't evolved well enough to do it at the time because we have Arena, and PvE was useless. It just seemed like this dead area of the game. You either have variants within the classes and you have a homogenization, or you just have very limited classes. That I think people would rather, in the end, have a choice. Yeah,
and choices are good. Blank.
But
oh, sorry, I'm hearing three at once.
There was something I was going to ask you, Blank, and that's I may have made this in my head, but I heard that there's a system whereby which everyone will be given standardized items that will be ranked. Is that actually happening? Do you know?
I haven't tracked that. I don't like to report on things until I get a blue. It's something that I've heard a little bit about, of whispers, but it's not a hard confirm yet. So when I get that, I will give that the thumbs up, but I've also heard that too.
Because, I mean, what I was thinking was a lot of hardcore PvPers that used to reside in WoW have moved to MOBAs now. And I think the reasoning is because there's a lot more PvP variants and you don't have to grind at all. Yep. And a lot of PvPers aren't really interested in role-playing and leveling. They just want to fight each other. If that system was to come into place and it had something like, say, I was thinking it'd be good if it had like a draft system almost, because when you have like these wombo combos that sort of circulate, so when it was like double pomp pyro, and whenever they came across that before they had to nerf it because it was just so.
Can I just say, I think that's the first time I've ever heard the phrase wombo combo.
Are you serious? Oh man, I've heard that's great.
Yeah. You're definitely a PV scrub lord.
I've now got an image of a Womble on Wimbledon Common doing combos.
The Wombo combo, man.
They're just like, the insta-give, like it's just
here. Yep. Here it comes. He's frozen, his feet frozen. He's got no trinket. All right, let's go.
But if there was a draft, if you had a system where you had these standardized sort of stats and abilities, and then you also had a draft system when you go into Arena, I figured that might be the best way for them to go. I guess. I mean, that way you can have your own Arena system as well. That happens when people do whatever. But then you have this ultra elitist, they satisfy the real kind of like who's the best at executing everything.
Right. How do you use the draft? The draft,
they did put this in though. I think what you're like or mentioning is the PvP times, arenas. I do believe, again, they are going to try and keep them open, but the times where you gain points is at a specific time window that you can queue up, and that's like if you're aiming for points, you're trying to do whatever. That's when you want to get in. I don't know if they're going to be open other than that, because I know that's a conversation that they're having right now. Do we keep it open and let people just play as if it was just a casual for fun, a learning environment or whatever, and then, 1800 to, midnight, that's it. Like that's when you can get points. And then tomorrow it'll be, I'm sorry, I'll stop using military time, from 3 to 9, that's when people will be queuing up to get their points. It is a possibility. We're going to have to see. I think a lot of this is going to change very quickly, because what you want to do in design when it hits the ground floor to players often is very, very different. It's one of my favorite conversations with developers. He's like, wait, what are you doing? How are you doing that? And I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, I never thought of that. So a lot of this stuff, it sounds great. You know, they're taking away those instants, like, because they don't want you to be instantly CC'd anymore. You know, that makes combat a little bit more fun. It's not just like I talented it and now you're CC'd because I have.
Wait, is that cast times you mean, or is that animations? Yeah, it's cast times.
With let me find it. I want to make sure I got the right one here.
So like you won't slowly be sheeped. It's that the sheep will take a long time to cast.
Well, there was. I'm looking at Shaman right here.
Slowly sheeps. You kind of feel the fur growing on your back first. You start making bleating noises instead of talking to your compatriots.
We're gonna kick you out of here with that silly growing in the sheep. With the Shaman, you used to be able to get Ancestral Swiftness, and it turned the Hex into an instant cast spell.
Yeah.
They're taking that away. So you're going to see them casting it. They're trying to take away that instant, that fast CC, so that a higher skill ceiling people is going to see Hex and then either spend something of his, or counter it, or run away out of line of sight, whatever it is. But it's no longer going to be, I instantly apply my CC and you have F all to do with it.
Yeah. That's exactly what you see actually, for instance, in Dota 2, because there's an inbuilt 1.5 second delay on animations. You can actually, like, it gives players time to anticipate and therefore make bigger plays, because they can.
Right.
If everything is instantaneous, it is just like everyone piles their spells in. It's a lot of chaos, and a lot of the calculated movements and calculated decision making is gone. So, I mean, that's actually very cool, because it sounds like they're trying to appease a slightly more hardcore player base by doing that in a way. Giving people space to get ahead of other players.
Yep, and, hopefully that's exactly what we see. It won't just be the gear grind. Those that are already at the top when a new season comes out already have the best gear from the last season. They already have the experience. It's like with any craft. If you kind of stink at it, if you do it over and over and over and over and over again, eventually you're going to get better at it. It's inevitable. You're already up there. You've got experience. 2K Plus was just it was literally rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Now, somebody could come in, have crappy gear, and get that grind if they're faster, they see things, and they work well with their partner. I think that's awesome. We're going to see, I'm expecting to see people that struggled from that 16 to 2K be able to push a lot faster and harder.
So you can essentially counteract people's statistical advantage by giving players space to be efficient in decision making. I guess because if you are lower on stats, like someone's got Gladiator Season 3, I don't know what gear, and you've got your Resilience Blues or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like that person, they just CC one of you, and then they're just gonna just blow the shit out of the other guy, and that's it. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, you have to just grind out and wait a few weeks until you can get the few epics to sort of compete with them.
Exactly.
So, I can totally see that.
Okay, folks, I have to do my watching at the clock routine. But it's been a lot of fun, a lot talked about, a lot to dig into. There's been some fun chat going on in the channel. If you're watching this on the tubes, well, I'm afraid you've missed the live chat in the channel, but you can fix that next time. Parv, when can people find us on the Blizzard forecast?
They can find us at 8 p.m. GMT every Wednesday until it's about 10 p.m. now? So yeah,
it's about 10 p.m. It depends how long we talk for. From when we start to when we finish.
I don't know what time that is in America.
I don't even know what time it is anymore in America.
I can't tell time.
It's 5 o'clock right now. It's supper time.
I think we've stun-locked Blank's mind clearly with the conversation. But on that note, it's time to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, of course, to Martian Pseudo for the excellent Top Draw segment. Thank you, Parv. I now have my homework to do, you nasty person now. And I now need to go play this melee shielded character thing and work out
You'll
how
enjoy
it works.
Zeratul. He's a fun hero, and you're like, when you start killing people, you'll go, oh yeah, okay, this is good. Once you start snowballing with him, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Zeratul it is. And Blank, that was a fun retrospective on the raiding side of things. and more next week, I think. We're waiting for permission to talk about some stuff, so yes, keep those eyes and ears peeled. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye from the Blizzard Forecast and MMOBuff. You can find us on YouTube on MMOBuff. You can find us on Twitter. You can find me every day doing this Heroes Leveling with Zeratul. But most importantly, if you enjoyed it, please tell your friends, please tell others, please give other people the chance to come and listen to my bad puns. Wait, you probably don't want to do that, do you? But there's content here as well, I'm pleased to say. So, have fun, enjoy, thank you for your company, and on that note, good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Greetings everyone, Pseudo here. Thanks for watching episode 2 of the Blizzard Forecast. If you like this episode, please click like, share, and subscribe. And of course, if you want to watch the previous episode, click the bobbling heads up above you there. Feel free to leave comments, questions, or anything else below so that we can better tailor fit our new show to you. Speak with you soon. Toodle pip.